Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. We're a podcast about board games where we have opinions and conclusions formed on the basis of incomplete information. This episode of Cardboard Conjecture is brought to you by these great Saskatoon businesses: Amazing Stories Comics on 8th Street, Dragon's Den Games on 8th Street, and Breakout Escape Rooms on Faithful Avenue. Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. I'm your host, Norm.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Ian.
And on this episode, some thinking, some playing, and some doing board games. And Ryan, it's the Designer Series.
It's the Designer Series, and we've got our good friend here, Jay Cormier.
Heyo.
All the way from, where is it, Vancouver?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, right there. Go Canucks, eh?
Hey.
Cardboard Conjecture is proudly sponsored by Amazing Stories Comics on 8th Street in Saskatoon. They're the winner of the Joe Shuster Award for Best Comic Book Store in Canada, and they were also nominated in 2016 for the U.S. Eisner Spirit of Comics Retailer Award presented at Comic-Con. Amazing Stories' amazing collection of comic books, board games, puzzles, and collectibles can be found in their store or on their new online website. And we're back. This is Cardboard Conjecture. Let's go straight into some talking about thinking, doing, playing board games. And Ryan, you found a way for me to play this game because I can't find it on the shelves. So talk to us about this game.
Yeah, a game that I don't get to play physically very often because it intimidates my wife. And she's not into these types of games. But Gaia Project was just recently released on Steam. And I play on my Mac. So if you're a Mac user, you can actually play it on there. I'm just talking about that you can actually play this wonderful game digitally now. And the AIs are actually very good. I was getting decimated by easy AIs, but now I've played a few games and I've been handily beating them. But now the medium AIs are crushing me completely even more. Gaia Project, if people are not really familiar, we kind of call it the Terra Mystica in space type of game with a few other differences as well. Like they've replaced the cult track from Terra Mystica with kind of like more of a tech tree type of thing, whereas as you progress up these different columns, you'll actually get more game bonuses and more game abilities types of things. There's some different rules for adjacency and whatnot, but it's pretty much Terra Mystica in space, and I'm a sucker for taking any game and putting a space theme on it. So so I've been playing lots of Gaia Project. I'm doing with Ian, like to do with actual Terra Mystica, playing it actually physically as I'm trying to play through all of the races. And I want to try to at least beat the easy AI with all of the races so that I now know how to play all of the races on this one. So Gaia Project on Steam. It's been lovely and I can actually crank out a game in like 30 to 40 minutes.
Wow.
Which is actually really quite nice.
What's the comparable to at the table for time?
Well, at the time, like the setup of Gaia Project is actually really quite a lot. So that's half your battle there. I mean, in a physical game, if you're playing like 2-3 players, you're probably looking like at 90 minutes or so.
Oh, cool.
Of a gameplay, but we like Ian and I we play a lot of Terra Mystica now, and we can like crank out a game really quite quickly now. Yeah, I think, right, Ian?
Right. Jay, where are you at? Terra Mystica versus Gaia Project, or have you not played either?
I've only played Terra Mystica, so
Terra Mystica.
It would be Terra Mystica anyways, because space games are not as much interest to me.
There we go. You heard it here.
There we go. It was settled. I think this is a future topic of interest, though. It's going to be Ian versus Ryan, Gaia Project versus Terra Mystica. We're going to take off the gloves.
I was just going to say, will be a Canadian thing. It'll be drop the gloves, right? Yeah. Clark and Probert. Okay.
We'll say sorry afterwards.
Yeah, of course.
Are you
Apologize.
worried that if you play so much of this digital, that nobody's going to want to play you in real life?
Oh no! Like if I play somebody in real life, I'm going to get decimated. Like I taught you how to play Gaia Project, and your learning game, you completely crushed me.
Because,
So-
he took Terra Mystica and just thought about it in space.
Exactly.
Cool.
So, yep, you can go get it on Steam. Actually, better probably just wait for the Steam summer sale. That's probably coming up very shortly here.
Cool.
It'll probably pop up on there or something like that.
All right. Ian,
Oh yeah, I didn't put anything down.
there's nothing in the
So
script,
I
so this is
thought-
like a Christmas present.
That's right. Well, last time I talked about that we actually had a game night for once, and we played some Terraforming Mars. That was kind of the big showcase of the night. We also played some more Santa Monica, which I talked a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
which is a newer game and about building up a beachfront. And I'm really digging this one. I really like it. It's got a neat way that the cards are basically used for everything, right? They're used as a location. They're used as just show what resources you get. They're used to show what scoring you're going to do. And then you're moving people around the cards, which is actually more interesting than it sounds because it's actually hard to move people around, and you want to get them to places because you lose points if they're not somewhere where they want to be. So I introduced that game, and I'm still really digging it. And then we finished off the night with what is fast becoming one of our favorite end the night with a quick game, which is For Sale,
Yeah.
which is an old game, but it just is always fun. Like it's just one of those games that you got 15 more minutes. No one quite wants to go home, but we're almost done. Let's throw out some For Sale. And I finally won. I've never won that game before. I finally got a win under my belt.
That's a game I
happens.
love playing on BGA because it's like you said, you can crank some games out, and it's such a classic auction system. I love it.
It really is.
Yeah.
Jay, are you a fan of For Sale?
Yeah, I love For Sale. Yeah. And Husk Society as well. Another Kinsea quick auctioning type game.
Nice.
No.
And have you played that Santa Monica, the new one?
I have not.
No. Yeah, check it out. It's a pretty cool game.
You keep bringing it up, Ian, and I go back to the BGG page. I'm just like, this thing just looks. Yeah,
The
it looks
artwork
like-
is cool.
It looks like something I haven't ever played before.
Yeah,
He's
we'll
he's
give it
giving you a
go
mini
one
hype
time.
train. Cool. I got to the table again. I've talked about it before, and I'm have no problems about talking about it again. And this game's Yukon Airways, designed by Al LeDuc and published by Ludonova. And you are a pilot, a pontoon pilot in the Yukon territories in northern Canada, eh? And it is, I want to say pickup and delivery, but it's more than that. It's an engine builder, pickup and delivery, card management, set collecting game, and obviously, like every good Euro game, it's all about the victory points. But what I think appeals to me the most is, if I'm going to pick about something today, is the player board. Thematically speaking, the player board is so awesome because it's your instrument panel on your pontoon plane. And this instrument panel represents how you can, during the game, asymmetrically modify customize your plane. I put a NOS kit here, but right. Simple elements like a bigger hand, drawing more cards, an extra gas at the beginning of my turn, or instead of having to collect 3 bonus elements, I only need 2. And it's what I'm really digging about this game is what I love about a lot of these games for that brain itch is putting together all of these switches and levers so that you flick one and all of a sudden it's this cascading trickle effect of of I just need to do this, and holy moly, it's just going to, watch the little mousetrap ball go down the system and start triggering all of those things that you put in place. The ultimate thing I like about this is because I have a love-hate relationship with dice. I love them and they hate me. But in this case, the dice represent I want to say, I don't want to call them tourists, but the people who are hiring you for this plane voyage. And there are 6 different docks representing the pips. And there's different colors of dice that represent the different colors of interest destination points on your map. And just that system of having to integrate the dock pip value and the colors that you can select. And here's the cool thing. You can only select one set of colors. So you're into a system of, okay, what's my best benefit versus the least amount of cost, or vice versa, right? So there's so many interesting decisions in this game that I've yet to, get bored with it. And Mr. ADD brain, adult ADD brain here gets bored fast. So yeah, this game keeps my focus. That's for sure. Have any of you guys, and it plays solo, so I'm sold right there. I know this is an obscure title, but Ryan,
you brought this one up on, was it our Hidden Gems?
I think so.
Episode? Was it that one?
Yeah.
I remember this one because this one had the unique story behind it, that it was it had a very sentimental value to the designer.
He was a bush pilot. Yeah.
Yeah, he was an actual pilot. And then a lot of the pictures that you see in there are actually like depictions of actually family portraits of like him and his dad and stuff like that, which that's what got me really intrigued with this. And I still have yet not played this one.
Well, I'll definitely package this up, and it's summer holidays, so we'll send a little camper to your place for the weekend. Does Jay, have you heard of this game at all?
Oh yeah, it's designed by one of my good friends, Al. Yeah,
really?
He's from Ottawa. He's a Canadian.
Well, see, and that's the tie-in that I was digging is not that I'm a big CanCon guy, but I love CanCon. And anytime that I can have get my hands on something that's made by another creative Canadian, I'm all for it. So do you have any background that you want to tell us about this that you know of? Or?
Well, no, I just that I've played a number of Al's designs because we hang out all the time at conventions and whatnot. And so we're good buddies, and love the guy. But for some reason, I haven't played this one. I know he really does a lot of cool designs with dice and using dice differently. And so he's got other designs, obviously in the works, and that have been published. So check out his other stuff too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought the dice implementation was pretty unique.
Nice.
Yeah. Ian, I got to get you playing this game, because these are some cool decisions I think you'd have fun with.
Well, eventually we'll be able to.
That's right.
We're getting there.
Summertime, and not only that, it's like we're breaking our isolation bubbles. Cool. So that was Yukon Airways. Jay, what have you been playing?
Oh, well, it's funny you should ask. Well, I mean, with lockdown and with having 2 4-year-olds, I don't play with other human beings over 4. So I won't talk about the child games I've been playing, but I've been playing online, like most of us, and mostly I've been playing my own designs, and I've been mostly playtesting the second game that will come from me as a publisher from Off the Page Games. First one being Mind Management, which is just coming out now to backers, and the second one is getting ready. I've got artists lined up. It's based on another comic book. It's awesome, and I can't wait to start sharing more about it.
Yay! Hopefully, we talk about it a little bit more later on.
There you go.
Hey,
I love teasers.
No. Yeah. I got into that meerkat posture. It was like, what? Yeah, head pop up. Yeah. The that Mind Management. I don't know the IP at all, but I gotta tell you, that cover, their box cover art got me right away. I mean, I immediately went, I don't even know what the game's about, and I want to play it. Yeah.
Did you see the?
Cool.
Oh, look at that! Yeah,
That's
a
pretty
little
wild.
skull.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
What kind of technique is that for printing? Is that
UV coating.
UV coating? That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
It's pretty sweet.
It's very sweet. There's so much attention to detail in this thing. It's going to blow people's minds if they care to pay attention to that kind of thing. So much.
I was following on Twitter. I think it was the actual artists or the author. You guys were talking back and forth in your enthusiasm as the Kickstarter's going. And I started. Now, I'm not Ryan's the big comic book guy, but it got me enough that about talking about like the theme of it, like psychic Cold War kind of, yeah. So I love me some Cold War, and then the moment you throw that, and I mean, I'm a child from way back where I played me some D&D. So the moment that's like that whole headspace kind of came in when you're crossing those dimensions, and right away I went, I want it. I want to play it. Yeah. I didn't get in on the Kickstarter. That's more Ryan's. That's more Ryan's field. But did you see this coming on Kickstarter?
I had saw this one, and I didn't know enough about it at the time. And then when I did finally educate myself, I had missed it. And I actually have Jeff from Amazing Stories. He's bringing in some of the collected editions for me, just because I am very intrigued about this actual story. After I've done a little, just after like my brief 5-minute Wikipedia search about it, got me. I was like, ooh, this.
It is my favorite comic books series in the last 25 years or so.
There's a lot of interesting things that it looks like it could be doing. So I'm waiting for those to come in.
This episode of Cardboard Conjecture is proudly sponsored by Dragon's Den Games, located in the Louis VIII Mall on 8th Street in Saskatoon. Swing by Dragon's Den Games and let Darren, Al, and the awesome staff help you out in search for great board games, role-playing games, miniature systems, and all of the related accessories. Be a part of their gaming communities that have scheduled events in their great gaming area. Dragon's Den Games, Louis VIII Mall on 8th Street in Saskatoon. And we're back. This is Cardboard Conjecture. Topics of interest, the Designers Series. Ryan, why don't you do some more introductions?
Sure. So this time around on the Designer Series, we've got our good friend here, Jay Cormier from Off the Page Games.
Yeah.
Welcome, Jay.
Well, thank you.
Yay.
Yeah, because we've had Sen on the podcast before, and it just didn't line up for you to join us when he came on at that one time. So
it proves does it prove that we're different people? We are different people.
Yeah.
you can do things separately every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have Jay here, and Norm's going to lead us through his talking points.
My talkings, yeah. What's
his lesson plan?
My lesson plan. I always make mention that we're teachers and we're geeks about structure, and then we just don't use the structure. We write it up and then we just forget about it.
Is there going to be a rubric for this that I should follow? I want to make sure I score really well.
It's not there, but there's always one here.
Of course.
I'm horrible. I'm horrible about this. I just assign points just randomly.
He's a math guy. It's like
people have to guess how they earn the points.
Yeah. And with
like
math
a lot of teachers I knew.
Yeah, I got to always show your work. So it's like, that doesn't work for me. But with every interview, I like to start off with the background because it's always important to know like where your roots are from. And we've got some East Coast or Central Canada roots. So background, and I hope I got this correct. From Ontario originally.
Yep.
Studied commerce at McMaster University in Hamilton. Somebody's been Googling. Hamilton, for those people who don't know, Hamilton is a boot across the Lake Ontario, I believe. If I'm getting things kind of correct.
Sure. I failed geography, so
yeah.
I like it.
Steeltown.
Yes.
So currently living and working in Vancouver. So a complete change of coasts kind of thing. And my last note, very much an A background, which is signs of a good Canuck. So here's the question from Ontario, NBC,
Right.
Leafs or Canucks?
Blue Jays.
I love that.
That was the answer I was looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Burgers.
And they're having quite a year with a number one Vladdy on their team. So it's been pretty exciting, even though they're still like 500 team. That's still exciting watching him.
The baseball for me is that one thing that I never really got into. I think in the 90s, of course, like the whole rest of Canada, completely dialed in. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Until
then-
the strike in 94. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to show my colors, Habs, but
You do want to show.
but no, here's the thing. From my background, French Canadian boy, I have to say Habs, but I stopped paying attention after the first player strike, so I don't have that much vested into it anymore.
For hockey, I'm 100% a bandwagon jumper, but it's always and only Canadian teams.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll even cheer for Toronto if they're the only Canadian team in.
Yeah. My stories is when I was growing up, my dad would sneak me and my brother into the Maple Leaf Gardens to see games. He would sneak us in. This is how I learned how to grow up.
Nice. So, big Toronto Maple Leafs fan? Yes, no?
Not big, no. Like,
Okay.
I'm not a big hockey fan, but I've been to a bunch of games for free.
Nice.
But yeah.
Right on. Okay, so we're not here to talk about hacky, but we're going to talk about some gaming. So let's talk about I'm going to list some items and talk about some gaming industry background, and then it's just going to be kind of free form for there, whatever you want to talk about, whatever we want to bring up, kind of thing. Of many of the professional hats, from my research, game design instructor at Langara College in Vancouver. I think I said that correctly.
Correct. Yeah.
Game design instructor at Vancouver Film School.
Yep.
Owner, founder, as mentioned, Off the Page Games, and the unique thing about that that I read through, that specifically focusing on graphic novel IP related material. Correct.
And even more specifically, creator-owned comic books.
Yes.
Because I want to work with the creators of the comic books, not with a corporation like Marvel or something like that. Not to say I won't someday.
Yeah.
But right now, I love working. It's almost selfish because I get to work with some of my heroes and idols that I really love. And with the first one being almost pretty much the top, like I'm starting at the top, so it's all downhill from here.
Cool. For me, I like, as I read through this other stuff, I really appreciated the give back that you have in your philosophy. Advisor, mentor to a lot of game designers by in these elements of the pitch project that you and Sen developed. Give us a quick talk about that.
Well, it was halfway through the pandemic, and I'm like, man, with no conventions going on, that was the majority of places where I personally knew that I was pitching games to publishers. And I'm like, well, nobody else is pitching as well, or it's very here and there, and not, you gotta know somebody basically. And so I came up with the idea of like, well, what if we could do something kind of online? And Sen and I banded it around, and we came up with the concept of like, okay, people are going to submit a sell sheet without their contact information on it, so it'll be not biased, and to a website that we partnered with Tyler Smith from D6 Publisher Resources to kind of help create that. And then we got over 750 sell sheets, different games submitted. And then we hired a bunch of industry experts to judge them. And so each one got judged by at least 3 different industry experts. And then we kind of got an average of their scores and ranked them. And then in different categories, a family game, party game, and strategy game, the top, a total of those 50 got to pitch live to over 40 publishers on a pitch project day, from Hasbro and Spin Masters and the big companies. They were all there. Like, so it was a dream come true for a lot of people who never had a chance to pitch to Hasbro, let alone all these other publishers. And for sure, games have been picked up and are getting in the process of being published now because of that. And because it was anonymous, we got people from all over the world. And because it's online, virtual, from all over the world. And people wrote to us like so heartfelt. It was like, He's like, listen, I'm in a wheelchair. I'm debilitated. I can't get to conventions regardless. So the fact that this existed, it's a dream come true. You opened doors for me that I never had even access to even open before. And they're so thankful. And people from other parts of the world that just don't get a chance to go to these events to pitch or have any connections that are now talking to publishers and have relationships.
What an incredible thing to create for during this pandemic. Like, I mean, a lot of people have struggled with this isolation, and what an exceptional gift to.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah. Oh, that must be
get that many publishers on board.
Yeah, everyone was pretty jazzed about it. We didn't really charge that much for them. It was a ton of work. In hindsight, it was like we charged way too little for the publishers to join in to have, because they got access to 750 games curated to the top 50. They're like, well, you're saving me a lot of time, because whenever they ask for submissions at an event, they pretty much just open it up to anybody. So anybody can sign up for spots, and you have no idea what kind of games you're going to see. So imagine them having to sit through 750. Right. And we culled it for them. So we're looking to keep this going, but it's we stumbled upon how we're going to do that, and we think we're going to try to partner with BGDL Plus, Board Game Design Labs, their new website that they have going on. We're going to try to see if we can add that as a feature of that website.
So I often use this term with Ryan all the time, but proof of concept. I mean, you've got something, and now it's just honing it, right?
Yeah, we actually want to try to make something that's not event-based like that, because that was good and everything, but it was a lot of management. We're trying to find something that's just ongoing, and a publisher can log in at any time and then see what are the top 10 party games, or filter it and say, what did that play over 8 players that have this theme, and they can filter it, and they'll get ranked immediately. That's what we're looking to do.
Brilliant aggregation.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. The next one I have is we kind of jokingly talked about it, but tell me about the Bamboozle Brothers.
Oh yeah, that's Sen and I. So it's so funny. It's just like Sen and I started designing, and then when we kind of started putting our names out there, for some reason we just called ourselves the Bamboozle Brothers. It's a fun name, and we just called ourselves that. We have our own little website, bamboozlebrothers.com, but we didn't, and we put together a blog in which we blogged the entire process of how to get your game published. And it's like 33 steps. You can go and see all the different steps we did to publish a game, and you can follow. And so many people have commented to us about how that they've used those steps to their own personal gain as well. So that's been nice to hear. But we never put that on a game or published anything by the Bamboozle Brothers. It's literally just a background thing. But yeah, so many people know Sen and I as the Bamboozle Brothers.
Well, going through it, I recognize it as I always have an ideas book, or like a little sketch pad where I'm always putting stuff down. To me, that's your creative repository, I think.
Yeah, we definitely had a forum that we would, Sen and I had access to, that just was only literally for Sen and I. And we would have all these different threads and posts and stuff like that. And we put all our ideas in there. We don't use it as much anymore because there's so many other tools available to us. But in the early days, it was invaluable to keep our thoughts organized. Sticky
notes on a kitchen fridge, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, this is interesting. The teacher, I completely geeked out when I saw this, was anything where I can have charts and graphs, but your fail faster playtesting journal.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, there it is. What was that? Just one of these little itches in your brain, like I need this tool, and if I need this tool, somebody else might need it.
Well, the story is that it was a few years ago. It was a week or so before I was going to go to a convention to pitch games. Which also coincided with my birthday. I said, let's have a little party, a little shindig. I'll invite all my board game design friends and players, and I'll rent out a little space in an apartment thing, and we'll play games all day. And it'll help me because it's a week before. I can kind of tweak all these designs so they're just like perfect. And then because it was a party too, I'm thinking like, what can I do besides bringing in food and stuff like that? I brought in some of my games to raffle off throughout the day and stuff like that. But I'm like, I kind of wanted to have a little grab bag, little part, going away present or something like that. But I'm like, what do game designers want? Like a bag full of meeples or something? Like I was trying to think of what to do. And I was going down that way for a bit. And then tying that with the fact that I teach game design at the time was only at VFS. Now I teach at Langara as well, but at the time. And I have created for them because you got to show your work, you got to show your process. And so for me, when they hand in their final board game, I need to see a certain number of playtest reports. And so I had created for them a kind of a sheet or two on how to kind of organize your thoughts. And so I could see your work and your process, and so that you can prove that you understand some of the mechanics and concepts that are failing and why they're failing and what you have to do to fix them. And I guess I merged those two ideas somehow in my head. I'm like, well, that might be a neat little thing, like a little journal or a little something, right? So I made a Staples version of this, where I just kind of, some of it's quite similar to this, but it's pretty much my alpha version of what this ended up becoming. So I got to test that for a good year before I went to Kickstarter with this one. So I made it, came up with all sorts of cool little ideas for it, and gave it out to everybody for free at the little party. And lo and behold, people who didn't get to go to the party found out about it and were like, hey, do you have any more of those little journal things? And then people were running out, were filling them up, and they come back like, do you have any more? Because I ran out, I filled mine up. And it made me start thinking of like, is this something people want? And then I just went for it. And I hired a graphic designer to lay it all out and did the whole Kickstarter. Very first Kickstarter that I ran was this one. A lot of my games have been on Kickstarter, but the first time I ran it, and it was a blast. And it funded, I think I only wanted like $7,000 target, and I got like 40,000. So it was great. Yeah. And it's still selling to this day on GameCrafter, and I still sell it. So it's great.
The what intrigues me the most about it is Sen has been on twice on our show, once on Conjecture, and we used to have a side episodes called Cardboard in the Classroom, where we talk about how, instructional design and board game design. When Sen was on, we talked about how those two kind of have an overlap. And the moment I saw this, I thought, I want to, right away, I'm like, okay, I want to buy this so that I, as a teacher, as an instructional designer, I can look through it and go, whoa, I can, change the theme of this, but I can use this as a nice unit plan structure. Or I'm a big fan of experiential learning with my students and project-based learning. So to me, that is such a beautiful, a structure where I can go show your steps. Like when they're working on a multimedia project, I want them to show their creative sequences from here, like what got you to this point. And the only way is qualitatively, where you can, write down anecdotes, or you can write down snippets. And I'm the kind of person where it's like, I want a mind map. I want something organic, right? Because that's how we think. We hit a tangent and we're off into, having a different idea and then coming back to it, for that piece of pie moment kind of thing. So I want to look at that with the
one of my favorite. I think one of my favorite parts about it, I like that, is that I gamified the process. And so on the inside cover, there's a list of these 10 behaviors that if you do these behaviors during your playtest, and they're all things that I think will make you a better playtester, then you mark off progress by shading in the next block in this kind of line. And then every so often there's a little badge. And when you get to a badge, well, lo and behold, you flip to the end and there's a page of stickers. And you get to put that on the front of your journal, just like a Scout's badge sash.
You just sold Ryan. You just sold Ryan stickers.
No, he didn't have to sell me. I've actually ordered one of these.
Ooh.
I actually have it on the way. I actually ordered it earlier in the week because I'm starting to get kind of a little bit more serious with my. I have some ideas, and I kind of want to actually start getting them. Put a little bit
proof of concepts.
Put a little sustenance behind them, other than just these little things that I like to do for art projects.
Yeah. So to me, I think that is such a valuable tool for the creative process in general. I mean, not just games and teaching, but in general. Cool.
Yeah.
This is a good transition point because we're talking about design. Let's talk about the stuff that you've got out there. And when I went through your, I don't even know if it's a word, but gameography, I was caught by surprise. 20 plus titles that I've listed, and you probably, there's probably stuff on there that I didn't catch, but the range wise, I think Cream of the Crop 2010, I have as one of your earliers.
Well, the chronologically, Belfort was the first one to get signed.
Yeah.
But a game called Train of Thought was the first one to get released because it was faster produced and it just kind of came in. What Cream of the Crop was not. It's a piece pack game,
Yeah.
and it was published in a book of piece pack.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Okay.
not really. Yeah.
It's compendium published. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk Belfort. Ryan, you have Belfort, don't you?
Yeah, because I kickstarted the TMG Deluxified.
Did you get your copy yet?
I did.
Good.
When did I get it? It was a while ago now, but
good.
I'm itching to play it with players.
Yeah. What I like about what we did there is we came up with this thing called the less red tape variant, and I'm waiting for the pandemic to be over so people can play games again. So I'm waiting for somebody to review it because basically it's almost a 10-year-old. What is now a 10-year-old game, and we came up with a way to speed up the gameplay. And we changed a lot about how it works to really get it going faster so you can play it in a shorter amount of time with no new components. And I'm really curious about people's perception of that. And I think it's really neat.
So you just fine-tune the rule set?
It changes how you place your people and how you score them. And you lose a few things that are neat about the game, like getting majority in the resources areas. That's a thing that you can get because that's how you signal an end of a round, but there aren't rounds anymore. You place your workers and then you choose at any point to score them and you get them all back. And that's when you score. And so it's just a lot more fluid and faster. And you lose the fun turn order aspect. You just go round and round and round.
Cool. Here's a question that I have about this is, like you said, it's about 10 years old. What did it feel like for you guys to I mean, obviously when you have a game out there and you play it and like a carpenter, when I build something, I know where all the little hidden mistakes are. And I know, it's so gorgeous. Like, no, if you just look under here, right. As a creative artist, to be able to come back to this game and go, let's fix these little things that people don't know that are bugging us.
A little bit like that. I will say, both of them are fine. Like you can still play the normal way. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
And there's benefits to it because you lose some of to ensure we keep the speed up. We have to lose some of the decision space, right? So you lose turn order and a few other decisions. But I think that was their goal. It was that is one of the criticisms of the game, that it's AP inducing and it can be a 2.5 hour game. And some people are like, man, if it was 2 hours or maybe like an hour and a half, that might be a bit better. I'd play it more often. So, it gave us a challenge to try to figure out if we could.
Cool. And like you said, you're still waiting for the data to come back because of
I want to see if
pandemic
like
pause.
Yeah.
It's on the top of my list of a game that I want to get played because I've heard so many things about it.
Oh, well, you got to play the normal way first.
Yeah. So I'm going to play. I do want to play because I've
the motivation.
All the components.
Oh, good. The motivation for that game was Warcraft 2. You remember that one?
Oh,
Warcraft 2.
Neat.
Where you send your workers out to get wood and get different materials, and they come back and they build buildings, and then you use those buildings to do other things. That was the whole concept of where it started, and then it ended up where it is.
Cool.
Nice.
Yes, my lord.
I want to transition into a title that I see over your shoulder, and I'm super thankful for when I first got into the hobby. Rado was talking about this, and it's Akrotiri. 2014.
Yeah.
And Ryan, you had that game.
I love this game.
To me, this was one of those games where when Ryan pulled it out, I'm like, oh, it's a nice little tight box, and all of a sudden it starts occupying, and there's some cognitive load going on.
Yeah.
And
it started out as a 2 to 5 player game, and when we pitched it, that's what we pitched it as. And Sophie from at the time Z-Man said, yeah, we'd take it, but only as a 2-player only game. And her thought process in hindsight was pretty accurate. It's a great game, but if we release it as a 2, 3, 4 or 5 player game, the biggest negative that people are going to say about the game is there's downtime because it's a tile laying game. all tile laying games have that. I got to wait until it's my turn to even start processing my turn because the board changes so much that now everyone's done. Now it's my turn. Now I'll start processing. Where can I put this? Okay, let's see. On a 2-player game, less so because you can pretty much plan out your turns with every once in a while somebody going, you screwed my turn over. I was going to do that, but that's only every once in a while. Yeah. So it was a wise decision to make it a 2-player only, and making it so in a tight little package like that. It's great. And there is some unannounced news that's unannounceable news that's coming with Acriteria. That's exciting.
Ooh, yay! Gasp!
May or may not involve more things.
All right.
I like things about stuff.
Stuff is great.
Let's talk about stuff that nobody knows about. So I'm going to quickly accelerate to certain points. So after Acriteria, we have This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Two of Us. There are 2 to 4 of us.
Come on. Yeah. Best title in gaming.
I saw that and I'm like, hey, that, I like that. I love tongue in cheek. That it was so awesome.
That was back during that mini micro game fad. Do you remember the micro game fad that was going on?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's 25 tiles. That's it.
Cool.
It's got a clever scoring mechanic that Sen and I are looking to figure out how can we put that scoring mechanic into a bigger game because it's such a cool scoring mechanic.
Oh, I'm going to have to look at that. Tied into what I want to talk about later on, it was this IP thing you guys have kind of connected to you. Orphan Black, the card game, Godfather, Dungeons and Dragons, Rock Paper Wizard. Obviously, the title has a little bit of the mechanism thrown at
kind
you.
Of. Have you never heard of that one or played that one? Oh my God, it's a hoot. It's one of our biggest selling games of all the games we've made, and it's spun off into WWE Headlock Paper Scissors.
Okay,
I've seen that one. Okay, that one's like always right there on the shelf. Amazing Stories, like right near the counter.
And maybe there's a third game coming in the series. Who knows? But it's the same concept of there's in Rock Paper Wizard, there's 5 spells out. Each spell has a different hand gesture associated to it. And everyone kind of looks at them and studies them. When everyone's ready, we all go Rock, Paper, Wizard. And you cast one of those spells at one of your opponents. And everyone keeps their hands up, and it looks goofy and funny as you're looking at people playing across tables. And then you resolve the spells, and you're pushing each other around on this little board. And at the end of all that is resolved, whoever's closest to this gold hoard on the board gets 5 gold. Second closest gets 3, and then you play again, and you're trying to get to 25 gold. And it's a chaotic hoot.
Oh, this is going to be an expensive episode for me. Oh, okay. I need to break that one down.
Yeah.
Put that one in the basket.
No, they're all prominently displayed at our local game store. I've seen them on the shelves.
That one has an expansion called Fistful of Monsters, which introduces monsters that kind of also come into the dungeon you have to contend with as well, which is really cool. But the WWE, while it's the same mechanic, we tweaked it all, and I think it's a better game because it uses specific wrestlers, and each wrestler has their own specific move. Yeah. Any idea what hand gesture is for The Rock?
What was that, Norm?
I don't know. Really?
Yes.
Like, doesn't The Rock have? Doesn't he have that big rock pose that he does all the time?
But how do you not do this for The Rock?
See, I overthought it.
And so you have your own move that you can do at any time that no one else can do, but it has to be powered up with I think a currency called momentum. So you have to build up your momentum in order to use it. And so there's things and stuff you can do in the game to build up that momentum so that you can use it. So you can't just use it every single turn.
Are there cards where you get to like fling the guy into the ropes to get that whole bouncing back and forth?
It's not as physical as that, but there are. The game is such that there's an outside the ring, there's an inside the ring, and then there's a 3-dimensional ladder in the game. A ladder because it's based on the Money in the Bank episodes of WWE, if you're familiar with those episodes, where you have to climb the ladder and get to the briefcase to get the contract to fight the title. And so that's the whole point of the game. You're trying to get to that briefcase.
Oh, I'm having flashbacks.
That's actually really awesome. This episode is proudly supported by the amazing team at Breakout Escape and Board Game Lounge right here in Saskatoon. Using industry-leading technology, Breakout Escape's escape rooms are all 100% uniquely designed by the team, ensuring their patrons have maximum fun while staying safe. As well, they are a fully licensed board game lounge with over 400 titles to select from to ensure fun for every gamer, new and experienced. Be sure to check them out at breakoutsask.com. At Breakout Escapes and Game Lounge, They believe that life is more fun when you play games.
This one I want to find for my son because he's super into dexterity stuff, and that's Junk Art 2016.
That is our biggest selling title for sure, Junk Art. Yeah. So this one, funny quick story about this one.
Yeah.
Sen and I made a game, and it was actually, you ever played Tishu? Anybody? Tishu?
I've heard of it, but I've never played it.
It's the best partner game in the world, bar none. It's so great. It's so you have to play it 4 players. It's so great. It's just a card game. And we wanted to make a partner game because we love it so much. So we made a partner game. It was all about juggling. It was called Up in the Air. And as the numbers increased on the cards, we put pictures on them just for fun and make a suit out of it or whatever. And the higher the number, we made it a harder thing to juggle, like bowling pins and then bowling balls and then chainsaws. And then the last one for fun, we put cats because it's really hard to juggle cats. Exactly. We go to a convention. I pitch it to R&R Games, and that's the pitch. I say, "Oh, you juggle things like cats and chainsaws." He's like, "Sounds great. Let's play it." We right here in the middle of the floor. I'm like, "Bring it out." And we start playing. Less than a minute, and he's like, "All right, I don't need to say anymore. I don't want it." And I'm like, "What?" And I love the guy. He's so blunt, which is great, actually, in my opinion. But he goes, "No." He's like, "I thought when you said you're juggling cats and chainsaw, I thought it was going to be a wacky game." And this is way before Exploding Kittens ever existed, but he's probably thinking it's going to be something more like that.
Yeah.
It might be a fine game, but not for what I was looking for. So Sen and I had to decide, what are we going to do with this game? So do we make the game wackier, or do we just keep pitching it as is, or do we change the theme so it's more boring and not wacky? And then just to entertain the idea, like, well, how would we make it wackier? Like, what can we do to make it wacky? Well, and initially we were like, well, it's about juggling, but we couldn't ask people to juggle because nobody knows how to juggle.
Yeah.
But we could maybe ask them to do something else, like stack things or something dexterity wise. We could do that. And so then quickly it transitioned to Junk Art, where we had cards with different numbers and colors, and each card represented a different wooden shape. And there was like 4 suits, 4 different colors, and I can't remember at the time, 13 or 14 different pieces in each of the suits. And all the deck of cards now helped you randomize which pieces you got. And we came up with all sorts of different mini games. And yeah, it's what a cool little concept. I love it.
Yeah, the fact that just the building part. The kid in me looked at that and went, haha, yeah. I forget the cards. I just want to start stacking like Ian with King Domino. I just want to put them all, Kingdom Builder. I just want to put them all in one pattern.
But it comes with like 12 different ways to play. And the actual way you're supposed to play is flip up 3 of these modes. And every time you play 3 different variants. Some are speed-based where you're trying to do things faster. Some are screw your neighbors over. My favorite one is they're all based on cities, is the Montreal version, in which you play 3 cards on the neighbor to your left, and they have to play those pieces onto their own structure. Everyone's building their own structure. Sounds great. But then after 3 cards, you stand up and you inherit that structure. And so you're trying to place those pieces as crappily as possible. They just have to stay there long enough until you leave, and then you want it to fall over. So it's so funny. People building these crap. Yeah,
Don't touch the table. Exactly. Cool. Oh, this is going to be a very expensive episode. Okay, so I'm going to accelerate a little bit, and you stop wherever you want and give us some insight.
I'll talk about anything.
But we've got Zombie Slam, Book of Dragons, but wait, there's even more. Jin, Tic Moo, that cracked me up.
Yeah, no, let's stop here because this has turned into my son's favorite game to play right now. Is Tic Tac Moo.
Oh, cool. It's only available in Germany. So how'd you get a copy of this?
I believe Sen actually sent us a copy of this. I think just out of just a good care package or something like that.
That's great.
And so when I started playing it, because I was like, oh, he's into tic-tac-toe and stuff like this. And I said, well, wait a minute. I think I got a game here that kind of has that tic-tac-toe feeling, but I think it might be more something that Daddy might want to play.
Right.
Same thing. And it's been fantastic. Talk to me a little bit about this one because it's been fantastic.
Yeah, we just wanted to come up with a Bejeweled type of game, like a match 3 kind of thing, and we toyed around with some ideas, and we just thought it's a simple kind of neat idea, but of placing when you place a third in a row, you leave that one there and you take these ones off. That was the core concept. What we thought was neat, and then we tied that to the cool mechanic of the restriction of how you get to place, and that I think is where the crux of the thing is, where you have an animal in your farmhand and an animal in your barn, I think,
Yeah.
And the animal in your farm has the one you have to place, but the animal in your barn, I might be getting this mixed up because I haven't played it in a while, is where you have to place it next to.
Yes.
So I might have a pig, but the animal in my barn is a chicken. So I have to place this next to a chicken. And
cool.
you're trying to get 3 pigs in a row or 3 chickens in a row. So I don't own the pigs or chickens. So you don't want to set something up for somebody else, but you can see what they have to do next turn. That's the key. You see that they have to place next to a cow. So you're like, oh, he can only play this. So he can't get this 3. So I can set up 2 in a row here. And hopefully next time I'll get the 3rd one. It's really, that part's really clever.
Cool.
Yeah. Cause I can see all those things, but my son who's 5, he doesn't. He's just like, I have to place next to a chicken. And he just sits there. He's like, I got to place next to a chicken. But how do I get my cows? I want cows. How am I not getting cows here right now? Type of thing. And yeah, we don't play with, because there's kind of like there's the area control type of thing where you try to get like 2 of every animal inside of your. We don't play with that way yet. We just want to just collect as many things as possible. Right. And
there's 2 ways to win. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But it's been.
Nice.
I highly recommend it as
that's cute.
As a nice little family.
If you can find it.
Yeah, if you
might be out of print now. I don't know.
Oh, see, that just makes me want to go hunt for it even more now.
Load up your Amazon.de.
Yeah, there you go. So after Tic Tac, see, I want to go get this game now. After Tic Tac Moo,
we didn't talk about Godfather, which is one of my favorites.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, let's roll back.
I like that one a lot. This is the non-Eric Lang Godfather.
Yeah,
and it was unfortunate that it came out within 6 months of that one, which got a lot more publicity. So ours came out during the IDW days of them just kind of throwing games out into the world and seeing what stuck and supporting what did stick and not supporting those that maybe didn't stick as well. So ours kind of just flew under the radar, unfortunately. But the concept is so cool. It's basically an area control game with some Yahtzee-esque concepts to it, where you roll dice. One person's Godfather at the start, and everybody has to make an offer to the Godfather, one of their dice. And so everyone rolls their dice. I have to make an offer behind a screen, and I'm going to offer you this die. And the Godfather goes around from person to person, and so typical to the movie, has to either accept the offer or make them an offer they can't refuse. And you give me a 3? I don't want no 3. Give me a 6. And if you have a 6, you have to give him a 6. If you don't, then he's left with nothing. And you get nothing. So it's a little risky. And as a Godfather, you don't get to use any of his special abilities. You just get more dice. I could get 1 extra dice from every single person, and I got a ton of dice. Really cool. Everyone else, though, they get to use all these extra special mitigating benefits. What you're trying to do is roll sets of different numbers and straights and stuff like that, and this entire beautiful board that's the map of New York City. Yeah. And each area in New York City has 3 3s or 4 2s or whatever, and you're trying to take over the areas. And you can spend any amount of your dice into the muscle track at the bottom, and the muscle track at the end of every round resets, so you have to kind of keep investing into it. And if you're higher than someone on the muscle track, you can bump someone out of a region and then send them to sleep with the fishes in the river, which they get a benefit from when they do go sleeping with the fishes. So it's not all bad, but it's just a really fast game that plays up to 6, and I think it's really nice.
I'm
really cool
looking at the BGG pictures, and in the river there's a 1 pip, 2 pip, 3 pip, and it's like, oh yeah, that's where they're going for in the river.
That's right.
This looks so cool.
Yeah,
thank you for talking.
We got that's out of print. We got a rights back to it, and we're contemplating doing something else with it and making it even more gamery friendly. I think one of the downsides was that it was tied to Godfather, because I think that turned some people off that maybe don't like Godfather. And 2, I think they put it in too big of a box. It made it feel like a bigger game, like this could be, and it's a fun, more family game. And so if we can change the theme up and make it a bit more accessible, I think it would be a better game.
Oh, right on. It looks like, I mean, just looking at the board and the zones and the dice allotments, it looks really cool.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. It came around at the same time as the other Godfather game.
It's happened to us quite a few times. It happened with that. It's happening right now with the Scooby-Doo game, and another game that's coming out this summer that hasn't been announced yet. That's already has another game in its.
Really?
Yeah.
It always seems interesting. That always seems to have like. What was it? Just this past year was
timing,
like,
right?
There's like 3 B games, like games that came. That's always interesting.
We're getting closer to our present time here. We have In the Hall of the Mountain King 2019.
Yeah, that wasn't with Sen. That was with a different friend of mine, Graham. he and I actually swapped teaching at Vancouver Film School, and so eventually we were like, we got to do a game together. Come on. And he's like, oh man, I'd love to make a game about In the Hall of the Mountain King. And he not really knowing if I knew what that was, and my eyes lit up on him like, that's literally honestly my favorite song of all time. I love that song. You guys know what song that is?
No.
You 100% know that song. 100% know that song. It goes a little something like this.
Oh, there you go.
And it starts off nice and slow, and it gets bigger and bigger. And by the end, it's like and gets huge. And so as soon as he said that, I said, if we make a game based on this song, it feels like it has to do that. It has to crescendo. It has to build and build. And we came up with this really clever cascading resource thing. Have anybody played this game yet?
I picked it up, and
you got it.
It's got such a cool concept. Yeah. So you hire a troll on your turn, and you place it up in, we call it a troll smoot, and it looks like a little pyramid. Yeah. And when you place it, you activate all the resources on that troll card and all the resources on the trolls beneath it in its pyramid. And so as you're building higher and higher, just like in the song, you get more and more, it gets bigger and bigger. And by the end, when you place your 10th one, the top one, you activate all the resources. But you put the resources actually on the cards. And so you have to spend them, because if you activate it again, one beside it, you don't get to reactivate those resources if there's already resources on it. So it becomes this really timing efficiency thing of like, I want to spend this before actually getting another troll, because blah, blah, blah. And you're doing that because then there's a big board where you're building these polyomino Tetrisy tunnels into the mountain, and you're trying to go deep into the mountain to find these statues. They're not hidden. You see them. They're on the board, and you dig a tunnel into the statue. Then you use carts, which is one of the resources, to move those statues through your tunnels to the center of the mountain, where you will praise the Mountain King and receive his blessing.
The thing that I thought was cool and unique that I've never seen before in polyomino tiles is some tiles have holes punched into the tiles. And without, I haven't gone through all the rules yet, but a quick look at the map, and I'm thinking it's one of those situations where if I can place this tile properly and highlight the reward in that circle, is that kind of where I'm going with this one?
Those are called anchor points, and it's the only place where you can place a pedestal. And pedestals are one of three colors that match the colors of the statues. Mm-hmm. And if you can get a statue and move it up onto a pedestal of its matching color, it doubles its point value. And so now it's a crunchy one. It's so good. I was just gonna say, I love the inspiration of building your flow of the game based on the flow of the song. That's really cool.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Ryan denied me a debate the other day about theme in games and hidden themes like that. But that's just a cool thematic tie. And they have a prequel called Fall of the Mountain King that's on Kickstarter right now, depending on when you're listening to this, which we didn't design, Graham and I, but we developed. We helped develop the game and tweak it to where it is now.
Just a little side note, very proud moment that I heard that discussion because you are now being part of the What You've Been Playing Wednesday discussions.
Yeah, and that's the game I talked about, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what, again, costly episode, that's what clicked my head into going, wait, I think I saw this on the shelf at Amazing Story. So I went there. Yeah, thank you very much. Brought that home and went, okay, this game has got my brain. And yeah.
Did you manage to get the deluxe or not the deluxe?
I don't know which one.
Probably not deluxe.
Yeah,
deluxe just has game trays, which are really, they're always nice.
See, and we had an episode where I'm the kind of guy that just throws the tray out and bags everything. Oh, well,
there you go. But some games, like especially the polyominoes, to have them all sorted, that just to bring them out and just sit it there, that part's really good.
Cool. I want to get to mind management. Because
you're going to skip over Scooby-Doo?
Well, if you want to, do you want to touch really on some quick. Of that stuff? Yeah, absolutely. I just
the op came to us and said, hey, we want an escape room, but we want to make it narrative and we want to make it based on IPs. And we're asking a bunch of designers to pitch stuff to us. So we pitched a concept and they loved it. And they went with us and we did Scooby-Doo. And the concept is that, have you ever played a point and click adventure from the 90s? Zach McCracken, Indiana Jones, all those kind of games, Sam and Max, where each character in the Scooby Gang, at least, has a verb that they can do. And each verb is associated to a specific number, 1, 2, 3. And you take that number and you put it in front of a 3-digit number that's on the board or on cards, and it lets you do that verb to that object that's in the art. And so you have to figure out who should interact with which object in order to, go around this mansion that you're all trapped in, and also solve the mystery of what's happening with this ghost. Is it a real ghost, or is it, is there some mask reveal of some sort at some point?
Isn't it always the old gardener that?
That's maybe. And then we got to do The Shining, same, and so now it's based in the same concept called the Coded Chronicles, and a third one which is coming out this summer, which I can't say, and a fourth one has been asked of us to make, but we so far away that we haven't started designing it. So it's very exciting.
The Coded, you mentioned Coded Chronicles. That's your game system.
That's what they called it. Yeah, that's what they called the system. Yeah, it's great. It's like, exit or unlock, so this is Coded Chronicles. And they're always going to be narrative and always based on IPs. And so there's like a book that you would look up that number, 1572, and you read in Velma's voice. Yeah. Like the interaction, like, oh, jinkies, this looks like a bubble. You know what I mean? It's great.
Yeah. I've played the Scooby-Doo one. It was fantastic. Jen and I had a blast.
Great. Great.
But we haven't had a chance to find the Shining one. Cool. At least locally, but
I will say that there was a printing error and there's an errata or something on BGG for that one.
Oh, okay.
So make sure you print that first or with it before you start playing it.
Cool.
See, and well, you know what? Let's take this moment to talk about your connection with IP. Like in your gameography, there's a lot of IP. Tell us about that journey. Like, do you go hunting a certain IP, or is someone approached and commissions you saying, we have this IP, we've looked at your repertoire and we see a connection here?
That is currently how it's worked for all of them except one. Yeah, that we've been asked, hey, are you guys interested in this IP? Would you make a game for this? And so far, we've 100% said yes. And so far, I've enjoyed all of the IPs. With one I wouldn't say an exception, but one difference is there's a game that's on Kickstarter right now of Sentinars called My Singing Monsters. And that's based on an IP of an app. But it's a kid app, kid-friendly app. Mm-hmm. And it's millions of users around the world using it and everything. But I had never played it. So that's the first time I had no knowledge of the IP and had to kind of immerse myself into it for a while to figure it out and see what it's all about. But other ones like Scooby-Doo was my favorite cartoon as a kid. The Shining is my favorite horror movie of all time. Like I'm getting big things. The Mind Management were totally different, where we were at Gen Con one year and we were at the Oni press booth, which is a comic book booth. And we were looking at a comic called Sixth Gun. And Sen just said out loud, just like, man, I wonder who you have to talk to get rights to make a game based on this. And somebody at the booth turned around and said, that'd be me.
Oh, you're looking at him.
Hi there. So we chatted with him about it, and it's funny. And we chatted with him about it, and that ended up not happening, the Sixth Gun thing. But we chatted. We were all excited about it at the time. And Cullen Bunn was there, and Brian Hurt. They were the writers and illustrators of that. And one of them said, "Oh, you know who you should talk to? You should talk to Matt." And my eyes kind of went wide. I'm like, Matt who? Like, Matt Kint. He's here. And I'm like, what? I have currently, at that time, 2 pieces of his artwork hanging in my office right now. And I'm like, Matt's here. I'm like, can we meet him? Like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, I'll text him. And so later that night, or I think the next night, we met up and all night we played board games together. And he was at that point, and you all will know this point, that point in your life when you're like, I don't know, 4 to 6 months into learning that board games existed. And so he was the guy at Gen Con walking around with 3 bags, duffel bags full of games, just like, this is amazing. And so we played games all night. And he had played our Acriteri and loved it. So that was great. And he offhandedly at one point just said, man, it'd be so cool to have a game for Mind Management. And Sen and I are like, seriously? Like, could we? He goes, you would do it? And we'd be like, yeah. Like, it was one of these things like, you want me? You want me? You want me?
That's and like a typical movie scene where it's like, but yeah. I thought I thought I
like you more than you like me. Yeah. And we said, yeah. And so we spent the next 2.5 years coming up with numerous alpha games. And when I mean alpha, I mean like, here's an idea, let's try it. Nope, that didn't work. Back to the drawing board, let's try again. Here's another one. Nope, like just absolutely different ideas. And we couldn't figure it out. And I was actually getting sad because I'm like, this is like my favorite comic and I got to get it right. I don't want to do something crappy. And and this is me, I'm not publishing, I'm just a designer.
Yeah.
And eventually we got this idea of the one versus many. And like, that's what's going to get in people's heads, this whole mind management thing, to think you have psychic powers.
Yeah.
That like, oh, I'm trying to make you think I went this way, but I actually went this way. Like that whole thing, it worked perfectly. And we started branching off and we designed it, and it's awesome. Now and then it got signed by a publisher. That publisher, after a few months, actually went bankrupt. And so we got the rights back and had a meeting with Matt Kint. And he's like, well, what if we just did it ourselves? He goes, I'll do all the art and graphic design. What if you guys just publish it? And I talked to Sen about it. And Sen's a full-time teacher, a professor at a college. So I'm like, I, for the last few years, have been fortunate that I've been able to move down to part-time at my real job. And so I only work 3 days a week there. So I had 2 days a week. I'm like, well, I said, Sen, maybe I could be the publisher and you just stay designer. He's like, that'd be fine with me. And so I started up a company called Off the Page Games. That was the first task of trying to figure out, well, what does my company stand for?
Yeah.
And I wanted my company to be something about something. I don't know about you, but it's hard to point out what publisher makes any game, because they're all good, or they're all samey, or not samey, they're all different, but it's like you couldn't say, oh, that's for sure a so-and-so game.
Yeah.
It's really hard. With, I think, a couple exceptions, something like Restoration Games, like they have a very clear purpose.
Yeah.
We're going to restore old games, add some new mechanics, make it, modernize it, and release it as a cool big game. That stands like, yeah, that's a purpose. So I wanted to have a purpose, and my purpose, I found out, was like, what if I just did, as we mentioned before, games based off of comic book that are owned by comic book creators.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. So and I'm off to the races.
Oh, there's probably just plethora of possibilities, because I mean, all the independents out there, like just from the way you told the story, how many others are kind of going, hey, I would be happy to work with somebody on it.
My first goal in this was just make the game awesome as a publisher. So I knew the game was good already, but make it as awesome as possible. So poured so much love and effort into it. There's so many secrets in this game. I'm not going to spoil any of them, but there's so many secrets, least of which are, these I don't even count as any of the secrets, but there are 14 sealed packages in this game. And it's a one versus many game. Whatever side loses, they get to open a package, and they get to shift the balance. We call it the shift system, because you shift the balance. So now you get a little bit more powerful. And so the more you keep losing, the more powers you keep getting. And it's more cards, more contents, more pieces, more rules, more extra things you can do. And it's super cool. And a funny quick story about that, when we were designing it back in the prototype days, we played a game. I'm going to name drop here because it's fun to name drop. We played a game with Matt Leacock and Evan Derrick and a couple other people. And ironically, actually, it might have even been Al LeDuc at the time, actually. I'm not sure. But as a callback to earlier in this episode, we played the game and we just about broke Matt's brain. He was just overloaded with too many options. He's like, I cannot keep this straight. And it really taught us something, because what had happened was, when you design in a bubble, and by a bubble I mean you play with the same group over and over and over and over again, they start to get used to it, and they start wanting a bit more. And they're like, I wish I could do this, because then I could react to these things that are happening. Oh, that's a good idea. Let's give you that power too. And let's give you this, and let's give you this, and let's give you this. And it just kept escalating. And then you introduce a new person, and it's like too much. As a first time, there's no ramp. It's just steep. Yeah. And so we took everything out and said, here's the basic game. And then let's layer it in one thing at a time. And this is the system we thought to do that. So that was so Matt Leacock had a little hand in how this kind of came about.
So you watch the cognitive load have negative effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The scope creep is crazy on that. Yeah.
But I mean, that's important too, because like you just said, outside of the realm of your testers, there's that outlier that will draw attention to an important element, maybe. Yeah, just the fact that you can't always just sit with the same people, because then you don't get that new person's experience ever. Yeah. Awesome. Let's touch base on this last one, My Singing Monsters. You mentioned it briefly in the IP discussion, but is this is currently Kickstarter?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we were asked to do this. So we started thinking immediately what kind of game this should be. And it felt like it had to be a worker placement game because there's all these different buildings you can go to power yourself up and do all these different things. And for sure, for a while, we were toying with trying to make this game include music because the app is all about creating music. These monsters, you breed these monsters and then they make sounds and you create this beautiful soundscape. It's a really fun game to listen to because every time you bring a new monster in, he's got a different way. And then another one, like and then it starts to sound like a big Bobby B. McFerrin kind of song tribute or something. Really fun. So we wanted to do a worker placement, but immediately, because of the art of the game, we wanted to make sure we showed off the art of each of these monsters. I don't want to just be playing little worker tokens out. And so we thought, well, maybe the workers are cards. So that's where it started with. What if we had a worker placement game where you had cards and you place them out and you would do things? And we started the game off and there's 5 different places you can go to. And we were a bit challenged because it was slow. One place you could go to breed the monsters. And so you place a monster down and there's always 2 spots in every single location. And when you place it down there, you would breed the monster with the monster next to it and get a bigger monster. And in the game, there's 2 element, 3 element, and 4 element monsters. So you get bigger and bigger monsters. And eventually we learned that that was too slow. And so every single location allows you to breed now. So every time you place a monster down, you get to breed and get a bigger monster. So it's a worker placement where you never get your worker back. Instead, you upgrade and get a better worker. And that part's really cool. And then, much like as if we didn't learn, much like our story with Mind Management, when we pitched this game to the Big Blue Bubble team, who aren't board game publishers, they're an app publisher that are now making this board game. They gave us their gamers first to play test. And so we play tested, everything was fine, tweaking it. And then we got to new people. So maybe we did learn. And we play tested with some brand new people. And they're like, this is too complicated. I don't know what's going on. It's too much.
Yeah.
And so we came up, the whole hook for this game is that this is now a game that grows with your family. You start off with playing on one island, and it sounds ridiculously weird to say you have a worker placement game with one location, but it works. It really works because of the breeding and how it works. It's a game that's not as simple as Uno, but it's only 2 or 3 steps above that from a family game. So you can play that mode and it's fun and the scoring is very interesting as long as you want. And you're playing these monsters down and you're getting tokens and you're filling up your little music cards. And when you score your music cards when you fill them up, and there's some timing issues about it. It's really fun. And then you could be like, when you're ready for it, you can add another island and it now adds something else. And each island adds a new element and concept that plays on its own, and you can stay at that level. And I know Geek Dad reviewed the game and said, we love the game. We're only at level 2 because that's where my daughter loves it right now. So we're having fun with just level 2, but I can't wait to expose her to more as she grows with the game. And what a great idea for families. If you're trying to get your family to get into games, this will just kind of walk them into playing these kind of games.
Yeah. Progression scale. That's pretty neat.
Wow.
More games don't do that, actually.
I know. And by the time you get to the 5th island, I think it's a nice entry level strategy game for my taste. It's like a nice, for other people that don't play these kind of games, this is a hard, heavy game, but it's a nice medium to entry level strategy game with a really good thinkiness to it.
Here's a question I had, because you'd mentioned that the app had a very auditive element to it, right? How do you bring that into a board game?
We tried for the longest time. We wanted to. Yeah. We pitched a bunch of different ideas, but they didn't want to do a party game. They really wanted to do a family strategy game.
Yeah.
So, okay, no party game. So for the longest time, we had on the back of these tokens, little audible music notes to them. And with the idea that you would sing these things out when you completed a board, and your boards look like a 5-staff music thing. So you are making music on a 5-staff thing with these different element tokens. So it looks like you're making music. And then our idea was you'd flip them over at the end and then you would sing this little song out. But we could never make that fit because it felt too partyish, or like someone had to judge if you did it right or something like that. And it just didn't fit with a strategy game.
Or gimmicky or something.
Yeah. So we ended up having to, cancel it. And we just weren't given enough time to do anything more grandiose, like QR codes and scan it and then it plays the song or anything like that. That would have been cool. We all thought that would be cool, but this is the year of the monster in their world. Like, this is a big year for them. They're doing a lot of announcements. And so we were on a very tight timeline to get this one ready.
Well, I think compared to your interpretation of in the Hall of the Mountain King, how the song influenced the ratcheting of the tension in the game. I'm curious. My interpretation, without having to look at this, that the harmony comes into the blending of the monsters. I think is that's where there's
song, a bit of that. Yeah. It's such a collaborative kind of friendly game of app. The app is so friendly, collaborative, and happy. And so I'm proud that the game is full of that feeling. Couple examples. There's a thing called decorations in the card, and decorations are whenever either your neighbors does this specific action, you get an element token. So it feels like, hey, thanks for doing that thing. I got a thing. It feels great. For scoring, whenever you score, if you land on somebody else's token, you jump over them. So you're like, hey, thanks. I get to jump over you. And so every little thing in the game feels like a nice thing. It feels good. There's no take that. There's nothing against. I never do anything against you. It's competitive. We're trying to get points, but it's all very nice and happy. And I think that really helps with the blend with the IP and the brand.
Cool. I like that harmonious approach to it rather than the abrasive or the conflictory. Yeah, nice. Well, we're getting to the point where we're going to run out of stuff to talk about, but I really like that.
I took this concept. I can segue to this. I took this concept of a growing game, and I'm using it for my next game I'm publishing as a publisher for Off the Page Games. So it's a game based off of the comic book Harrow County, which is by Cullen Bunn and Tyler Crook. And it's absolutely fantastic comic book, 32 issues of amazing Southern Gothic horror story type stuff with really cool thing about a witch that was, burned and buried 100 years ago. And then many years later, a child was born from the tree under which she was burned and buried. Born from the tree, literally from the tree comes this, and everyone watches her as she grows up because they all think she's the witch reincarnated, and she isn't. And then more and more things happen that start to unravel this whole family history that happened, and it's wild. So the game I have is that you're playing as this girl and her friends called the Protectors. They're trying to protect Harrow County, and against the family. And the family are people that are related to the witch that was buried, and they want to destroy Harrow County. So it's an asymmetric 1-versus-1 game on a kind of hexy type map, kind of small type hex map. And you're trying to pick up little tokens to improve the strength of your haints. Haints are like your little ghosty, ghouly, goblin-y things that you raise from the dead and go to attack each other with. And I'm not going to explain all the concepts of it, but the how it grows with you is that so you play with you pick one legend to play with every time you play. So each side has 5 or 6 different legends. So a lot of different replay there. There's a third faction called Cammy, who, a little bit of a spoiler alert, you learn later in the comic that she is the twin sister of the main girl who was born from the tree, and she was born from the tree at the exact same time. And she grows up and she's part of the family, and she doesn't like Emmy and the Protectors, and she doesn't like the family. So now there's a third faction. You could play as Cammy, that's her name, versus the family, or Cammy versus the Protectors. So now you have a lot of, and they all three play asymmetrically in how they play, not to the same level of root or vast, but because they're all trying to get these little tokens and they're all trying to attack each other. That part's fine, but there's always a secondary scoring motivation, and for each of them it's entirely different. And then also how they play is different. The family is a bag building game. They're pulling tokens out of the bag and dissound. And the Protectors play, they take the tokens and put them on a track and permanently power them up. And Cammy plays like a stratego game where she has these pieces where she sees what's on her side, but you don't. And then that's just the first game. And then you can play the game on 2 maps. And now you split your legends out on 2 maps. And then I'm serious, you play it on 3 maps. And you can play the game on 3 maps, and you have to change which map you're activating. And it starts to blow your mind how intricate this game can be. You got 3 different legends, all working on 3 different maps. And then the game comes with an add-on for a third player. And this is Hester. You can play as Hester, who is the witch that was buried under the tree. And you're not playing as any units on the board. You don't get to control any of the units on the board, do anything. You play as roots coming up from the ground and trying to infect all the haints. And when you do so, you get to put a snake in their ear. This is true from the comic book. A snake goes in their ear. And so we have these meeples where snakes go in their ears. And now when it's Hester's turn, she can move those haints around. But when it's your turn, they're still your haints. You can move them around too and do what you need with them. So we both have communal control over these haints. And she wants to infect enough haints out there in the world to come back from the dead. And if she comes back from the dead, she wins. And it's I've never seen a game like this where it's like, oh, it's 1 versus 1. And then there's a third player, but it's not just like another faction and you're all fighting against each other. Totally different way that she's playing to try to infect everybody and mess everybody up. It's really, really cool.
I'm digging that multiple mechanism player approach. Dave was talking about, was it Merchant's Cove?
Now, Merchant's Cove, the thing I heard about that, I heard it's just a bunch of mini games. I don't want to slight it.
No.
But it's a bunch of mini games.
Yeah.
And they're all playing different mini games on their own.
Yeah.
And then you compare stuff and you interact in certain ways.
Yeah.
But this is you're on a map and you're fighting each other and you both want to kill each other always. But you also have another map. Like the family is trying to cover up hexes with storm hexes and they want to tear the thing in half with storms. And that's what they're trying to do. Whereas there's these townsfolk littered around the map and the protectors are trying to get to the townsfolk and rescue them and protect them. So I'm super excited about it. I couldn't be happier for that to be my second game because with mind management being such a love of mine, being so high, I took a long time trying to figure out what my second game was going to be because I'm like, how am I going to be as passionate about that as I was about mind management? And so I'm there now. It's exciting.
What's its probable release time or Kickstarter?
April 2022.
Okay. And again, you're going to see the same production process of going to Kickstarter and
absolutely. Yeah. I still have to do that. I'm a one game publisher right now. So yeah, it's all uphill.
But that's been recognized as part of the process in this industry too.
And I've been so fortunate that I've got a leg up with the previous publisher who bought Mind Management and then ended up folding. They had played Mind Management with a distributor in Canada, Universal. And so I had a leg in with them. And so I talked to them and they're like, yeah, we'll distribute your game. And for FYI, for people that don't know context about that, to get distribution with only one game is nigh impossible. So I was super lucky that I got distribution in Canada. In the States, I was not so lucky. And then I had an idea and I talked to Helena Capel from Bird Island Games, who did in the Hall of the Mountain King. And she's a friend of mine and she designed that. And I said, hey, what if you co-published it? And and we talked about it and you take a certain percentage and blah blah blah, and she goes, yeah, let's do that. She goes, oh, this is awesome. So we're putting a little sticker saying it's co-published by Burn Island Games and it's getting distributed through PSI in the States. So I have like distribution in the States, and on top of that I have distribution in Europe too. So I'm like, I got, for a first time publisher to get, obviously a lot of thanks to the IP of my management, which isn't huge. I know not many people know about it, but it's an IP and it has its fans, so it's good.
I think that's one of the most important things is, you've got the idea, but to get it out there. So to lock a distribution system in like that, out of the gate.
So lucky. I feel fast forwarded like 2 years of my growth of my company by getting that.
Yeah.
So it's amazing.
And like you just mentioned, that's the biggest obstacle. And you happen to just hurdle it like hopping a fence kind of thing. So kudos.
I'm a new publisher, but I've been around the block a few times.
Yeah.
So I've got some experience in other things that have given me, open doors here and there. So it makes it look like I'm super lucky, but it also is a lot of work that has gone behind the scenes.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, Ian, Ryan, do you guys have anything?
So your Coded Chronicles, your third one, you can't tell us what it is. Can we guess? do you mind?
I'm not going to say yes or no, though.
No, that's fine. Okay,
we're just going to look for eyebrow raises.
You've got the Scooby-Doo, which is like the family friendly. You've got the Shining, which is the horror. So I think the next one you're going action spy. So I'm guessing Mission Impossible is the IP.
That'd be cool.
That's my guess.
Wait,
that would be cool.
I just thought of another potential. Dun 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 dun. Little Indiana
cool
Jones.
Yeah,
that would be an interesting one.
I got to do this. It's going to be jarring for a lot of you, but this is what my room looks like.
Hey,
see, my heart is set.
That's the mind. Matt Kint did that one.
Nice.
That one. That one right there of Indiana Jones.
My heart is set that the next Code of Chronicles would be X-Files based, but because I'm a huge X-Files guy.
All right, that would be good.
We're so fortunate we know the next couple, and we're so fortunate that they're IPs that we all love. So I'm very fortunate that I get to work in this world.
The one thing that would be the feather in the cap is to get either the IP for the Beachcombers or the Littlest Hobo.
Until tomorrow, we'll just keep moving on.
Hey, there you go. Right on. This was so much fun. We
Awesome.
got to get you on again down in the future when you get to talk about these games that we can't talk
Right.
about.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Ryan, do you have anything else as we get into the denouement?
No, not really. I kind of backed My Singing Monsters as we were talking.
Yay!
See that? I wanted to do that, but I'm like, hey, I got to keep this flow going here.
No. It
Well,
sounds
and
like-
the price is amazing. It was like 40 Canadian for the basic version, and they want to get it out by December. Like they think they'll get it out by December this year. 2 backers. They're fast tracking it through Panda. So
yeah, no, that's amazing. It sounds exactly like my son would totally dig.
same.
Yeah. This is an expensive night. I'm telling
This has been an expensive night.
Sorry.
No. Yeah. Well, and that was a perfect way to wrap up the Canadian version. Sorry about that, eh?
Yeah.
Well, we always get to this point. We thank you so much, Jay. Where can give us a little bit of pump your own tires? Where can people find you on social media? And
Off the page games on any social media platform, Facebook or Twitter, Instagram is my main thing. But Bamboozle Bros is another Twitter handle that I go by for me. Those are probably the big ones.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the website
offpagegames.com.
Yeah. So thank you, Jay, and thank you, Reddy, for following us through this episode. And I hope we didn't cause any trauma to your pocketbooks.
I do.
Yeah, exactly. Gots to feed the kids. Well, that being said, I'm your host, Norm.
I've been bamboozled.
And I'm in.
And we'll catch you later.
This has been an episode of Cardboard Conjecture, and we are Bridge City Board Gamers. And you can find us on Facebook at Bridge City Board Gamers Saskatoon. You can find us on YouTube, Bridge City Board Gamers. We are also on Twitter at BC Board Gamers. And of course, Board Game Geek Guild number 3039.